all that kind of stuff. All right. Anyways, hello and welcome to Just Animals podcast. I'm Elle, and with me, as always, is my dad, Guy, who is strolling through I don't know which airport he's at, but he's in some airport.
Phoenix.
What? Okay.
Phoenix.
Anyways, yeah, I'm sure you're making a spectacle of yourself.
I'm counting votes.
You're counting votes. That's great. Anyways, today with us, we want to introduce you guys to someone brand new to the show who we are very excited to have. It's actually a new zookeeper, and his name is Jay. So we just want to welcome Jay the ZooKeeper, guys. Jay, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners. Kind of just tell us a little about yourself. Keep it kind of light, whatever you want to share or not share.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. So, my name's Jay. I'm a zookeeper. I've been a keeper now for about a year and a half, but I've been working with exotics for on and off about 10 years now.
Awesome. So how did you get into exotics? Were you just, that kid that's like, I like animals? Were you checking animal books out from the library when it was library day?
Oh, exactly that. It was all animal books all the time. One of my favorite things I remember was I set up all of the stuffed animals in my room into little enclosures, and then I attempted to charge the neighborhood kids entrance into my zoo at the time. Just that with a little dog in there, and all the fun stuff.
That is amazing. I love that.
Well, we don't call them enclosures. What do we call them?
No, that is right. No, it is enclosure. That's what you call it. You don't say cage. Did Sam not teach you anything? That's amazing. You tried to charge the neighborhood kids to come see your stuff. You know what? I might have to try that too. I mean, it's kind of like reverse. Hey, kids, you want to come see the dog and the puppies in my van?
Exactly.
That's
so,
awesome.
Jay, could you help define exotics, please?
So exotics is essentially anything that's not domesticated. So a hedgehog or a ferret would be an exotic, or most reptiles are exotics, but horses, goats, sheep, dogs, cats, those are all going to be domesticated animals.
You're muted. I muted you because the airport is loud. You need to come back on the mic. Still muted.
Well, I'm walking back to my terminal, so there's
I don't know. I told you to go to a quiet area, and you don't listen.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So, Jay, do you have a degree in zoology?
So I never finished my degree, but I got most of it while I was there studying wildlife biology. I do plan on finishing it up eventually.
You should.
Okay, you don't ask for your unsolicited advice. You go back when you're ready.
What zoo do you work at, Jay?
If you're allowed to say, you don't have to if you don't want to. That's very personal. We don't want people finding him and harassing him at a zoo.
I don't know if I'm going to say the name yet.
No, that's completely fine. No pressure. Jeez, what is the matter with you?
What are they going to do? Harass him at the zoo?
Yeah, yes, people are insane. You know this.
Oh my God.
You know this. People are crazy. They're going to be like, oh, it's that.
They're going to drop their reptiles off. Here, Jay, take this iguana.
That's right. Did you ever have that happen to you? Did people just kind of dump their animals on you? Like, oh, Jay's the animal guy. I got this thing. It's not really working out. I'm just going to give it to you.
All the time. That's when I worked at the pet store. That is how I accumulated a lot of the reptiles I had. Was just people who didn't want their pets anymore.
Oh.
How many parrots do you have, Jay?
Parrots? I don't have any parrots right now.
Oh, I'm surprised because people, think they want a parrot and then they realize how much work it is. It's like, okay, I'm done with this thing. I can't go 99 years with this bird.
Oh yeah, I haven't been ready to sign up for a bird yet.
That and some of those birds are not codependent, but they like to be around other birds, especially the parrot species, if I recall that correctly. So don't they usually want to be a buddy? Like I've heard it's cruel to, get like one African gray. You want to have at least two, or like two lovebirds, or, and two of at least whatever parrot species.
Yeah, so a lot of birds are flock species, so they do well when they have similar species with them. Okay. So it's not a bad idea to have two macaws together if you really want to make that kind of jump.
I'm in an alcove now, so it should be somewhat quiet.
It's not.
Oh boy. Well, I'm not sure where to go. This is probably going to be the quietest I can get.
Okay, well, anyway, so what kind of things would your when you're at the pet store, what was probably the most interesting animal you got? Did any of the animals come through that you had to like, call someone from the county and be like, hey, we have this crazy animal that no one's really supposed to have here, by the way, or like, did you have any of those incidents?
Well, since we were in Texas, no, not really.
Oh, okay, yeah, everything's allowed in Texas. Never mind then.
Yeah. Craziest thing. Um, well, at the store we had a Nile crocodile for a bit.
Well, okay. Where does someone get that? I hope was that an illegal pet trade maybe kind of thing?
I'm not really sure. It was there before I got there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he was there when I started, and he was there when I left.
How big was he?
When I left, he was about 6 foot.
Okay. Where do you keep that?
So we had him in a large display area in the back. So we had like a pond to get into, and a basking area outside, so we didn't have to get in the water, and different areas like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you're gonna have to build him his own little suite. I mean, he's the
Yeah.
size of a human. He's gonna need his own suite, essentially. Wow.
So you mentioned basking area, which I want to talk to you about. Can animals synthesize vitamin D like we do from the sun?
I believe. Ooh, I'd have to double check on that one. I know I learned it at one point, but I don't know it off the top of my head anymore.
All right, that will be next episode's homework, or the homework for next episode.
The homework. Oh, you're gonna give the zoo guy the homework. That's fantastic. Even though
Well, I piqued his curiosity. As a curious animal person, I'm sure he wants to know the answer on that one.
No, exactly. I'm like, I know they need it. I'm just not sure if they do synthesize it the same way we do.
There you go.
That's fair. That's fair. So yeah, so for reptiles, that's because, or we're always kind of assumed and told it's because they're cold-blooded, they need it to warm up. Is there anything else to it, or is it just that's how they warm up? Passive, or I guess, yeah, passive warming.
So they're gonna obviously need that basking aspect, and they're gonna need there's a UVB light that you'll also use for several species of like daytime dwelling reptiles, and that'll allow them to get a lot of stuff, the vitamins they need to prevent like metabolic bone disease and calcium deficiency.
Oh, wow, okay.
So Jay, I'm going to take care of the 800-pound gorilla in this room, which is same question I ask every animal person, which is, putting animals in captivity. It's a kind of a double-edged sword. I'd like to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I always feel like I have an interesting view on it. I think that inherently the best way to do it would be we have no facilities at all, that all animals are in the wild and all their places are perfectly safe and preserved. But I also think that that's not realistic either. If anything, when I studied wildlife biology, the biggest thing we taught was the point of wildlife biology is learning to strike a balance between man and animals and nature around you as a whole. So there has to be some sort of balance that you require there. And I think that inherently, if you want to lean that topic, that the world is capitalistic in general, and attaching any form of dollar signs through conservation or even ownership is kind of the only way to save any animal as a whole. So the money you can raise through conservations at zoos, and understanding that maybe the plan is never to release these animals, but that it is more of a Noah's Ark, that in the case that you lose these lands and these preservation areas, that we still have access to see these beautiful things that existed in this world.
Okay, I like that take. You're muted.
Some of the folks we've spoken to in Africa, people hunt or /poach these animals for subsistence, not so much for economic purposes. I mean, but you know, just to
I don't
eat.
think it's poaching if they're hunting for their livelihood.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
it's a very gray area at that point. I feel.
I mean, it's poaching if it's illegal to take this particular type of
Right,
animal.
but
It's
also, are you going to tell someone who was literally born from that land, hey, you can't hunt, which your people have been hunting for thousands of years and surviving on? Also,
well,
they're
yeah,
not the same people that run that species into extinction, because if that species goes away, there goes their food. So I don't think
yeah,
it's indigenous people that are the problem. It's
Yeah, like when I did my internship in South Africa, I remember
cool.
one of the guys talking to us about it, and one of the things that he discussed was it's really easy to sit here and say do this or do that or do this or do that, but it's hard to do that when it's your crops that got devoured by the passing through eland or Cape buffalo that day, or the elephant even. Um, it's just a much different situation once your feet are on the ground there, I feel. And obviously I was only there for a short period of time, and it was just other people's perspectives that I got to learn from, but it was obviously very interesting to hear their perspectives on it.
in Australia, I just heard. I think they have 50 million kangaroos or something like that now,
Oh yeah.
and they do eat the crops. And but then you know we're trying to be sensitive to kangaroos and the way they're hunted, and so I don't know. You're absolutely right, Jay. You know what? If it were my crops or my sheep that were being exterminated by wolves, I probably would have a different perspective on that. It's easy for me to be a city boy and tell you what you should be doing on your land that I've never lived on. So you're right. I have no right to tell you.
Yeah, it's just I feel like it's a much more complex issue than I think a lot of people approach it as.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it is. Well, that's the other thing too, and I'm sure that you're aware. When I was talking to, we had a mountain lion guy coming on or come on the show. We actually need to have him back. You'd really like him. We were talking about how Idaho, these politicians in Idaho are passing this bill. So they got all this government funded money, or they got all this money from the government to reintroduce wolves back into Idaho and help, I'm sure you probably heard about this, revive the population. Fast forward 10 years, now they want to kill these same wolves that we spent those millions of dollars on to put back into Idaho, because allegedly, and I think I looked it up, it's like 75 million acres of like land in Idaho. And so I find it a little hard to believe that farmers and wolves cannot coexist with that large of a space. So it's definitely is politically motivated, because one of the main senators pushing that bill is a rancher and a farmer, and he's trying to say the wolves are taking his cattle and his whatever. But if you actually look it up, someone did a study. Disease is the top killer for any type of cattle animal, and then at the very, very bottom were pumas and then wolves. But the main killer were those, communicable diseases that spread between cattle living in,
Yeah.
enclosed spaces. That was the biggest killer, not the wolves. But they were, trying to get a bounty system set up, and it's like, okay, so again, we spent all this money to bring these wolves back, and now you're trying to kill the same wolves we spent all this money on. No.
Well, if I remember correctly, and I don't know if it was Idaho, the reason to reintroduce the wolves was because the elk population
That was
getting
Wyoming.
out of control. Oh, that was Wyoming, you're right.
Yeah, because they were ravaging Yellowstone. All the native flora
right,
was
they were killing the trees. Exactly. Yeah, so they had to, but you know what? Like anything else in nature, we have to get a balance, and maybe sometimes you have to thin out the fawn. Just like that's why they have tags, and make sure that they're not going crazy with the population is not getting out of control.
No, exactly. Like when you look at what populations of species of birds are like declining across the country, you'll see declines across a lot of songbirds and other migratory bird or other sorts of migratory birds, but we don't see declines in a lot of game species. So a lot of our waterfowl, like our ducks and things like that. And that's because we've invested so much of our money towards making sure we keep track of how much these populations are, how much we can take from them, and what they're doing at a higher rate than we do towards these songbirds that do have a much higher rate of loss right now than, say, our waterfowl do.
Interesting. That never even occurred to me. Interesting. So, can't hear you.
Yeah, we spoke to the guy in Hawaii about the birds there, and the feral cats are messing up the bird population.
They're messing up the bird population everywhere.
Oh yeah.
True.
Not even feral cats, just your regular cat, which is why it's best to keep your cats indoors because they're making all kinds of bird and lizard and reptile species just disappear. That being said, I think the last time we spoke, you did have not a preference, but your favorite animal or your, the animals that you would like to work with the most. Which animal would that be?
So that's a lot of different animals. Yeah, there are certain days where I could spend each different day out there with a different animal
Sure.
that I currently work with. If I were to pick my top 4, if I
Yes.
had to
Top
pick,
4. In no
Okay,
particular
go.
order. It's okay. We won't make you favorite. We won't make you.
I'd have to say it'd be my Cape Buffalo herd,
Okay.
my Nyala herd, my 2 Red River hogs, or my Abyssinian ground hornbill that I get to work with. Any of those 4 are like my favorites to like work with or hang out with on a regular basis. Hang out, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the animals.
Buffalo was the most dangerous animal in Africa or something like that, isn't
Well,
it?
that's the hippopotamus, right?
No, I was just watching Netflix Nature and the
Oh,
Planet.
he knows.
And,
He knows better than you, Jay. Not the man that works with the Cape Buffalo. Mr. Netflix over here knows.
They're up there. Everybody likes to. I think it's kind of overblown. From what I've read, it depends on the region that you're in, and also food scarcity obviously plays a factor. But like, there's some areas where the attacks on man are more Cape Buffalo dominant than say a hippo attack. But personally, I would think that the hippos or even elephants are probably more dangerous than Cape Buffalo at the end of the day. I do work with them, but I feel that their behaviors are pretty straightforward when it comes to reading.
So I'm going to pause you there on the Cape Buffalo. That is actually going to be the first animal we are going to discuss with Jay. So we're going to, not to cut you off, Jay, but yes, no more Cape Buffalo questions out of you, sir. But currently, before we wrap up, if you want to tell everyone what I cannot talk today. I don't know what they're doing outside. The animals that you're currently working with, and then we'll kind of go from there. And then I believe, weren't you a bird guy too initially?
I like birds.
He likes the birds. He likes the birds.
Do.
But yeah, so go ahead, tell us what your current, which group of animals you're currently in charge of at your zoo.
So I work with a large, about 100 acres of a pasture with a mixed species enclosures with Cape buffalo, wildebeest, water buck, zebra, ostrich, impala, udad, and hemsbok.
All right, you're gonna have to tell us what those last 2 things are.
I don't know what those are.
Which ones?
The last 2.
Udad and hemsbok.
So udad they're a species of goat. They they look like goats. I like to think they've got long hair on their legs. To me, I like to say they look like bell bottoms. That's just how they look to me. The largest species of oryx.
Okay.
One, you know exactly what you're talking about.
Jay, have you ever heard of
the black and white masks? Yeah.
Right.
Have you heard
and
of
then I also work with a sulcata tortoise, some Red River hogs, and then on my other days, I work with sort of our carnivore string at our facility, and that's going to be servals, caracals, fennec foxes, our large aviary, our vultures and secretary birds, and then our Abyssinian ground.
question, well, two questions. One, are the zebras assholes? Because we did this thing in Louisiana where my husband's from called Global Wildlife, and they were, you can kind of feed them and whatever. There's, bison and all kinds of fun
Yeah.
stock type of animals. And they're like, don't feed the zebras. They're going to come up to you. Do not feed the zebras. And the zebras were definitely kind of being pricks to each other and the other animals. And I was kind of like, oh, I kind of see why it's don't feed you people, because there's clearly no pleasing you. So are zebras assholes? Can you settle that debate?
Like all people, it depends on the individual. There are some who are just absolute assholes. And then there's others who they're pretty good. I find that as they get older, they mellow out more.
Oh, okay.
Like I work with our 3 older ladies, and so they're all very mellow. They don't care about anything. I can, when I need to give them pans of food or medicine, I can just set them down and they'll walk right up to the pans and eat from them without a problem. They're very well behaved for me, at least those 3 are.
Okay. Yeah, because the one we were with, it was like stomping its foot. Like you could tell it was irritated. Like, give me the damn bucket of food, you bitch. Like I was like,
yeah.
well, they said do not feed you, and you know what? You're being very aggressive, so now I'm taking it away. But yeah, like getting all very. I mean, I don't know zebra behavior, but I imagine similar to a horse when they're frustrated, they start stamping and blowing air out of their nose. It's kind of like, no, thank you. And then the caracal was. That one, because when the one Sam worked with said, she said that one was a bit of a butthead too. So is yours kind of sassy or?
So we have 2 of them.
Oh.
And I would call the female sassy, but not in a bad way.
Okay.
She might, if you walk by her, she might sort of pounce and then let out a little hiss at you. But it's very playful.
Okay.
It doesn't feel aggressive from her. Yeah, they've had them there since they were very young, so they've been used to the keepers around them in their enclosures for a while, and they're very relaxed around the keepers.
Oh, good. Interesting. That's so awesome. So yeah, so we'll let you go here, Jay. Thank you so much. We're super stoked to have you on the show. Keep an eye out for our next episode with Jay. We're going to talk all about the Cape Buffalo, which I didn't know that they had not aggression issues. I imagine it's probably more a human ends up being in a Cape Buffalo's territory and then they get upset. But then it's, kind of portrayed as, oh, these things are aggressive. It's like, well, no, you went into his zone and he's just acting as an animal does when they feel like you're invading their space. So that's going to be definitely an interesting thing to talk about. Guy, any last words from you?
Yeah, Jay, do you use Missouri zoo food over there at your facility?
We do use Missouri. Even
Okay.
when I worked at the pet store, we used Missouri.
Are you a member of the AZA?
We are not currently a member of the AZA, but we are under the accreditation process right now to finish our application for it.
Very nice. All right, we'll keep up the good work and look forward to our next meeting. Kirk out.
Sounds good. It was a pleasure meeting you guys as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Jay. All right, so as always, find us on Instagram. Don't leave yet. Find us on Instagram, Just Animals Pod. Email us if you have any questions for us or for Jay or any animal suggestions. As always, justanimalspod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you guys next time. Have a good evening or morning wherever you are in the world.
All right. Adios.
Bye.
Can I leave?